Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here, everyone that's live in the room. Thank you for being here, everyone that's on this broadcast. We are so glad that you're here to join us. We hope you're having a wonderful Sunday, a wonderful beginning of September, and a wonderful all around day. And with that, now we come to our inner healing time. At this time, I invite everyone to relax in this moment. Go ahead and let your body ease into your chair, wherever you may be seated right now. Take a few deep breaths. As you breathe in, let the breath cleanse you. And as you breathe out, let that out breath relax you. Allow any tension or stress that you may be having in your body, just let it ooze out of you for right now. Anything going on, just put it aside. Just for now, put it aside. And allow yourself to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own. For your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me. Sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or a mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and sharing confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Well, welcome on this holiday weekend. And those of you out there in, I call it TV land, but it isn't really, Streamingville. It's great to have you with us. Danielle mentions Emma Curtis Hopkins and the Emma Curtis Hopkins discussion on High Mysticism on Friday nights now. And this series, drawn somewhat from her work and somewhat just from life in general, about the domino effect, that spiritual awareness can just suddenly click in, and then everything falls into place. A lot of times we think of the domino effect in a negative way, like slippery slope, you know. Everything's going from bad to worse, and then it's going to fall apart altogether. I invite you to consider it in a different way, that one move affects everything. One new cause, one act of co-creation affects the next moment, the moment after that. It's like you drop the pebble in the pond, and the ripples go out, and they could technically go out to infinity if the pond had no edges. Or what is it, a butterfly sneezes in South America and it creates, well, we think again of havoc and chaos and all of this one small thing. But if the truth of your being is that you are one with the only power there is in the universe, and the only real problem is unawareness of that, then pull any thread and the whole thing begins to reveal itself. The curtain falls, shall we say. The scales fall from your eyes, and you're revealed as the whole and complete being that you are. And this was the contention of Emma Curtis Hopkins, one of the great teachers of New Thought, one of the founders of New Thought, the teacher of teachers. She created a body of work that fit into 12 lessons. Then she wrote a number of books using those same 12 lessons, but saying different things about them to get the point across. And with an imagination coupled with an education that was sterling, she brings in from every known mythology and religion and sacred writing on the face of the earth. She brings stuff in to make this point that there is this power in the universe. It's not just a power you can use. It's not just a power you can be used by. It's the only power there is, and you are a co-creator with it, whether you know it or not, and so you jolly well better know it. Because otherwise we're creating without deliberate intent, but using a power, putting something into a power that takes the impression of thought as though it were with deliberate intent and causes something to happen. Causes something to happen. Now, a paradox about Emma Curtis Hopkins is that many who read her think she was kind of otherworldly. She was sort of detached from what's going on. and was an absolutist in metaphysics, that prayer would heal anything. The only problem there had ever been was a spiritual problem, a problem in consciousness. That the world, as she said, is an exact record of your thoughts. That the people you see coming toward you are a record of your judgments. And you say, well, that's really hard to live up to, that way of thinking, that absolutist kind of model. But what I want you to know is that she was an active worker for civil rights, for African Americans, for Native Americans, Indigenous Americans, Canadian Indigenous First Nations people. When she was in New York City, which is where she spent the last part of her life, and many indigenous people came to the city to work in the building trades, because this was a period of time when the great skyscrapers were going up in the city. And these people had zero rights. They had zero representation. They were paid whatever anybody felt like paying them. They got lied to, they got cheated and so on. And she stood up. And this is right after the First World War. This is how long ago it was. For a woman to stand up and be heard and make this kind of a difference. Say, well, if this person was like all about it's just in your mind and it's all this kind of, vague woo-woo sort of spiritual stuff, why would she step out there and take this stand? Because you do both. Because you do both. There's a sign in a medical school in Paris that's quoted by somebody who's then quoted by Ernest Holmes, where it says, a doctor is saying, I dress the wound, God heals it. I dress the wound, God heals. I love that. I love that. It's like, you want to be a co-creator? You know how often it's like, God, come do your part. Yeah, I'm a co-creator with the infinite, but God, I need you to do your part here. Come get me out of this. Where the education is needed, where the application is needed, is at the level of the self. God or Spirit is already doing everything it possibly can. Needs my participation. Needs me sometimes to dress the wound. And this is what physicians do. And if it applies in any kind of science, but when there's let's take you for instance. Brian, we were laughing earlier, so I'm going to put him up here in a chair and use him as a demonstration, use him as a prop all through the talk. That would be wrong. But anytime you have a medical situation, anytime you went to somebody who did something for you, but what they didn't do was heal you. They created a context for healing. Your body's healing. Your body was made by not human hands. Your body was designed in the workshop of the infinite, and it knows how to heal. It knows how to cause muscle to knit back together. It knows how to cause flesh to heal and create a plane of being that's in many cases even stronger than it was before. And there's not a medical person on the face of the earth who can tell you how this happens. All they can tell you is that it does happen. And so they dress the wound. They set the bone. They do the thing that needs doing. The Spirit takes care of the rest. So we don't throw ourselves on Spirit overlooking this world. If we do, we've got a duality. Then there's this world and Spirit. And that's the same kind of duality we're trying to crawl out of. The belief in two powers. The power of this earth and the power of some greater consciousness. No, if that consciousness is that great, if it's all it's cracked up to be, if it really is God, it's present in this world at the level of this world as well as at the level of ideation, of perfection, of aspiration. It's everywhere present. So we come back to this work and say, so what's my part in it? What do I have to do? What do I have to do to remember the truth of who I am? In High Mysticism, which is considered sort of her masterpiece, There's a run-up book to it called Scientific Christian Mental Practice. It's exceptional, and we use it in our classes here. It's a little more understandable. There's a little less to chew on than there is in High Mysticism. High Mysticism just blows the lid off the whole thing. She says, so, in your practice of being one with Spirit, here are the 12 lessons of creation. And one of them is that you heal in consciousness any sense of duality, any sense of separation where you find it. You address it with oneness. There's not you and the body you're wearing. There's not you and the life that you're living. All there is Spirit at the level of this expression. She says even the earth beneath your feet is the garden, is paradise. The life that you have right now is paradise. How can that be? When life is crazy. When it seems like in the world today, nobody's happy. I was looking for like kind of a story of an explanation to myself of what's going on in the world right now that was simple and kind of got to the point. And you hear, well, people are angry with each other and there's all this divisiveness and all of this. Yeah, but there's something back of that and something back of that and something back of that. And what it is people aren't satisfied. I think people aren't satisfied. Nobody's satisfied. Nobody's good. You do something for somebody, you do something for a group of the part of the population, you see here's some policy that you wanted to have enacted. Nobody's satisfied with it. Everybody's looking past it to what else is going to happen and what could possibly come next. And where are my rights? And if I have rights, then maybe I need to take some of your rights, because you have too many and I need some more. And there's all of this kind of moving stuff around because nobody's satisfied and nobody's happy. And the problem, if it's a spiritual problem, is this. People are looking outside themselves. People are looking outside of their own hearts for the answer. That if only policy was different, my life would be better. And that's not how it works. That's never how it's worked. That's never how it's worked in the history of the world. Somebody decides within themselves to feel strong, to feel capable and confident and like they belong in this life, and the next thing you know, life begins to tailor itself to that. And laws begin to change and policies begin to change and so forth. It's always from the ground up. It's always from a consciousness of, look at Jesus the Christ. Look at what he did. He didn't come in here and say, well, when the Pharisees and Sadducees all behave differently, when everybody gets their act together out there in the culture, then you'll be ready for what I have to say. That's not how it worked. He said what he had to say, basically, damn the consequences. He said what he had to say, and the culture, 2,000 years later, is still trying to catch up. It takes a while, still trying to figure out, now what did he mean by that? Now, what did he mean? When he said love one another, what did he really mean by that? Like, love who exactly and how much? And really, all others? Or just some others? Or some others more than others? Or what exactly did he mean? And people are scratching their heads about this. And maybe he'll come back one day and sort it all out and tell us how it is. And if he were to come back in the way that he's expected to come back, he would come back and say, 2,000 years later, and where are you with this? How often do I need to say this? How often do I need to teach this? To love one another. And that doesn't mean somebody else starts. It means you start. That means you do the thing. You begin in consciousness, and life begins to change. The world begins to change. The world can be a better place. Look, you folks are in this room today, or in this virtual room today, because you had a vision one time of a world that really works for everyone. You're not here needing to be convinced that such a thing is possible. You may be here wondering, now exactly when is all of this going to happen? But you believe it's going to happen. Or you wouldn't be interested in this teaching. I further maintain that because you're in this teaching, you're sitting in this room or virtual room, it's important that you hear this information for your own destiny. Whether it comes from me or somebody else is immaterial, but it's important that you hear this information. Otherwise, you'd be hearing different information that was important, right? Whatever is coming to you is about you. Whatever's crossing your field of vision is something you can use. What is coming to you this morning, and every morning that you hear from us here at Creative Life, is that there is one life, and that life is Spirit's life, and that life is your life. Therefore, that's the information that you need. And if we have any more information about that, we'll be sure to share it with you. We don't hold back. We don't say, well, you're not ready for this kind of thing, you know. But that's the bottom line right there, is that there's one life, and that life is Spirit's life, and it's your life right now. Whoever you are, without exception. Absolutely without exception across the board. The trick is to internalize it. So, I want to tell you something that I heard this week that rocked my world in terms of spiritual application. Somebody told me that they heard a religious science minister at their center someplace who was a guest. I want to know who. I want to know where and when. You'll see why. This minister was telling a story, like I am, from the front of the room, you know, in this place, and described a situation where somebody needed something. Somebody was hurt or sick or unhappy or afraid. And this minister said in a very matter-of-fact kind of way, so I felt a treatment. I wrote this down, and I've been sitting with it since I heard it, which was last Monday night. I felt a treatment. A treatment, for those of you who don't know, is an affirmative prayer. You're going to hear one at the end of this service. A treatment is a process of consciousness that moves from an awareness of oneness with everything out into particulars. So the ramifications of that oneness are health, prosperity, love, so on. And you specify how you want this to occur in your life based on your life's choices, direction, and so on. So we'll say, like people will say, well, I said a prayer. I'll say a prayer for you. I'll have a good thought for you. We use these verbs like, well, I gave a treatment, or I said a treatment, or I did a treatment. This person said, I felt a treatment. I felt a treatment. And just saying that now just kind of makes the hair on the, I felt a treatment. It puts me in mind, again, of what Jesus did, which was when faced with sick people and needy people and so on, he didn't kind of go through the recipe book of, now let's see, there's one life, now what was that second step again? And you know, it wasn't a process in healing. There wasn't a run-up to it. He felt a treatment. He knew without saying a word. He just knew. You get to where you feel the thing. And because you're not having to say a word, you're not having to be in, present yourself for judgment. Like, whoa, what kind of prayer was that? What sort of church do you go to? None of this. You just feel the thing inside yourself. You're not announcing it to the world. It's not an explanation. It's certainly not a performance. You feel the thing inside yourself, and suddenly you know. And when you do that, you become like a beacon of light. When you do that, the lights come on for you, like we're knowing they're coming on in southeast Louisiana. The lights come on for you. Or you're a broadcasting station. That's what Ernest Holmes called it in Living the Science Mind. He said, you're a spiritual broadcasting station. All of a sudden, the waves that have been passing kind of nondescript through reality now come to you, bounce off of you. Maybe you're a satellite. How about that? You're a communications satellite. Stuff goes up and comes down. See? And up here, you're feeling a treatment. You're not having to perform or declare, jump up and down. You're just having this still and quiet knowing. And the highest form of treatment that I know is to know that everyone knows they are at choice. For me to know that everyone knows that they are at choice, that each one knows they are at choice, that every person knows they are at choice. I'm not telling them what their choices are. I'm not telling them what their choices ought to be, but I'm knowing that they know they're at choice. So when I read the news and I don't like what I see, I'm treating to know that everybody in this situation knows that they're at choice. When out in the world I see things I don't like, I'm treating to know that everybody knows they're at choice. When out in the world I see things I love, I'm treating to know that everybody knows they're at choice. It's not just repair work. It's not just triage, you know. Wherever we go, we know that everyone is at choice. Who is it that's doing that knowing? We are. I am. The individual is. So I know that I am at choice. I could think anything, feel anything, and right now I'm going to feel a treatment. And I'm going to know that everyone knows that they're at choice. Why am I going to do this? Because it says to? No. I'm going to do it because we're also not in this room because we're people who do stuff because it says so. Let's be real, okay? I'm going to know that everyone knows they're at choice because of this. When I know that I am at choice, my life gets better. My world gets better. Suddenly I'm free. And I want that for everyone. If you look real hard at your life, you realize that the stupid things you've done have only come at times when you felt you were not at choice, that your choice was hemmed in, boxed in, that you were pushed around by somebody else or the world at large. But when you knew that you were at choice, suddenly across this wide vista of possibilities, you know, there came light. Also, there came originality, new information out of nowhere that now you could employ in some way. So that's why I'm going to know that everyone knows that they are at choice, because suddenly they'll say what people have said since time immemorial. Long before any of this stuff called New Thought was codified the way that we have it, people have said, in a moment of shocking realization, I don't have to live this way anymore. I don't have to hate. I don't have to fear. I don't have to judge. I'm free of that because suddenly I'm at choice. Then probably what they did is run and tell somebody else, you're a choice too, and that person may or may not have believed it in the moment. And we're not responsible for them believing it. We're responsible for our knowing it. And the rest of the world will do with it what it will. We have probably all been people who had other people affirming and knowing that we were at choice before we ourselves got it. Does that make sense? Okay? In other words, there have been well-intentioned people all throughout your life who thought, gosh, when that person, you know, this beloved family member or friend of mine realizes who they are, they'll make healthier choices. And it took some time, maybe decades, you know, before that really clicked in. But eventually it did. Eventually it did. So we're not responsible for how others hear it. We are absolutely responsible for how we ourselves know it. So as I say, there's a good reason, I find a good, very practical, existential reason for knowing that other people know that they are at choice, which is that when I started doing it, my life got better. Also, there's a, what should we say, ideological reason behind it, which is everything that this teaching is based on. It's the fact that everyone is at choice. And so what we're inviting people to see is not some pleasant illusion, you know, lovely though it might be, but the absolute by God reality of how things are. You are at choice. You are a co-creator with the infinite. You don't get to become one because you study science of mind. You've been one all along. And it's time we know it. So in the weeks to come, and I think this will extend into October, some of her material, in the weeks to come, we'll consider more out of High Mysticism. You can pick up the book in our bookstore. You can buy it online. It's also available as a free download. And I love those. And you got it. Okay, it's in the thing. I love those, and books are great. You should absolutely buy books and spend lots and lots of money on books, all kinds of money on books. However, free downloads are great because they're word searchable. So, and in some cases, you buy the book, you get the free ebook with it. So, High Mysticism, Emma Curtis Hopkins. Let's do a treatment now, and I know Lisa's going to have another one pulled up for us. She always does. Let's know together now there is one life, one power, one presence. That one is Spirit. That one is God. That one is whatever name you want to give it. Just know that as you're giving it that name, that you are the experience that it's having in this world at this time by means of you, who has the power to name things. We have the power to name things. We have the power to call things good and very good. We have the power to bless creation. We have the power to know that love is ultimately all there is, and the veil that's sometimes pulled over it of separation and fear and anger and hatred, that's the part that's really the illusion. That's the part that's just the cloud in front of the sun. And painful though it may be, we learn and grow to reveal the love that has always been. Causes us to seek out one another, that causes the pieces of the world to come together so that the world itself might take shape. Driven by the forces of love, the fragments of the world seek each other. Love is all there is. And the foundation of the earth beneath our feet is formed in love. Love courses through our bodies, expresses through our voices. Love goes before us, behind us, to either side, above and below. I affirm and know now that I know and remember that I am a choosing, co-creating entity within the one, and I choose to know that every other co-creating entity within the one now knows this about themselves as the unshakable truth, and that while clouds may from time to time obscure the sunlight of that knowing, it's never for very long. The one life that is Spirit, manifesting through each of us, is mighty to heal, does what needs doing. As we dress the wound of this earth, for this knowing and its manifestation and form everywhere we turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
Ooh. And now, as we come to giving time, and our ushers make their way to the back, I want to thank each and every one of you for choosing to support this center. And your support could be monetary gifts. Remember, no matter what you give, how big or how small, it is greatly appreciated. I mean, we have bills to pay. We have things that we need to do here. So whatever you give to support is something that we cherish and we try to use to the best of our ability. And if you're not able to give monetarily, maybe you're able to give through some of our volunteer activities. Maybe you're able to give by sharing this message on Facebook, or once it goes on YouTube with someone you love and know this will resonate with because it resonates so well with you. Whatever you give, again, we're grateful for, we appreciate, and we invite you now to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. Before we have music, is there anyone that's visiting us for the first time in the audience? Welcome. Thank you for being here. Our usher will give you a little packet. And if you're online with us for the first time, I ask you to just let us know in chat. You could also email us at info@creativelife.org to let us know there, and we'll definitely respond and get back to you. Thank you.
I was wondering how the microphone got that high up on you. All right. Well, hang on. There's one announcement that we missed, and it is that if you would like practitioner treatment after the service, PJ will be available online. Check out in the chat for the information on how to get to that. They're available right after the service for about 20 minutes. And Jim Cantor will be available in the room. Yes, okay, I wanted to make sure. And you can meet him back in the, well, we call it the cry room, but it's not really the cry room. The children's room. I know, cry room's the old one. And then when I was listening to Jesse talk, one of the other things that, Jesus didn't ask if we were ready to hear that information. He didn't ask if we were ready for any of that. He also didn't ask if we were worthy. He never asked, are we worthy to be healed? Are we worthy to hear this information? Are we worthy to be fed? He just did it. Because the truth is that we're always worthy. We've always been worthy. So as you carry that out into the world, you are worthy just because you are. So, there was a hurricane, and Jesse made a brief mention to it, and I don't know if you are aware, but that hurricane kept on being a really awful storm and headed all the way up, tore through Kentucky, tore through Tennessee, tore through all of that area up there, and flooded basements in New York and New Jersey. So there are a whole lot of people, along with the people in Louisiana, that are dealing with some mess right now. And so and they are worthy of us feeling a treatment for them. And I love that. I'm going to keep that. I love that. So I'm going to feel a treatment for them right now. And for all of us, in the knowing that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. I am a part of that love. It flows through me, in me, as me. Just as I know that each and every one of you are a part of that love. It is that love that made us. It is that love that animates us. It is that love that we are here to be and to do in all of the amazing forms that love takes. Every bright light in the world is that love. And so I speak my word now for all of those people who have been in the path of this storm, in the knowing that the resources that they need are already on the way. I treat now for the power company, the power lines, the power people, the people who do the power lines. The resources are moving. The people are on their way. The tools are on their way. The power is on its way. The pumps for the basement are on their way. And as we gather together to know what it is, to know that love, to provide those supplies, the one thing that we can do is love each other. We can love each other in the room. We can love each other on the broadcast. We can love each other across the world, across the universe. And in that love, everything is accomplished. And so I am knowing in that gratitude, that which you seek is seeking you, that joy has heard your name and is running through the streets looking for you. And I relax and release and know that it is done, even as I speak these words. And so it is.
So it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
In my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
Everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
Choose it.
I choose it.
I trust
I trust it.
I use it.
I use
and
it.
I love it.
And I love
So
it.
it is.
And so it is.